morning. I now call the April 9th, 2020 Administrative Briefing and Work Session of the Marion County School Board to order at 9 o'clock a.m. Please silence your electronic devices to avoid disturbing others. I'll now ask the school board attorney to explain the rules of this board meeting.
This work session is a public meeting as defined in Florida's Sunshine Law. The board is dedicated to full transparency in its meeting and its work. In compliance with the Sunshine Law, the board has adopted uniform meeting procedures, including the right for citizens to participate. The board will allow public comment regarding any work session item listed on today's agenda at the appropriate time. Speakers must fill out a request form and hand it to the school board secretary. After the board and superintendent have completed their discussion on a particular agenda item, the secretary will call the speaker's name in the order received. At the podium, speakers are asked to state their full name and address and to spell their last name. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. As required by the Sunshine Law, the board must maintain orderly conduct and proper decorum throughout this meeting. Speakers may criticize subject matter and decisions in a respectful manner, but not people. Finally, speakers must be very careful not to violate the privacy rights of others, especially students and their family members, by mentioning their names or other identifying information. Thank you for your time.
We'll now begin the work session with the superintendent's administrative briefing.
Good morning and happy Thursday. I just want to share with the public, I would call it some happy. And thanks, Reverend Cummings, for helping to make this happen. And I'd like you to give the background of this. Right about now, I think the city of Ocala is at North Marion High School, where they will be working with us to put internet in at our outlying schools. They're going to help us with our outlying schools, all except Reddick, and we have a plan for Reddick. And this came about thanks to, well, a little prompting and then some intervention, Reverend Cummings and Mr. McAteer. So do you want to give a little background on that?
Last week, I had a conversation with Councilman Musler and our city manager, Sandra Wilson, and Mel Poole from the city of Ocala. Because we've given this technology out to the students, and there are a lot of students that do not have the access to get on the internet. And I was informed by them that they could help us get access to a lot of areas around the county, not just within the city. There's a lot of areas within the city that already have Wi-Fi access. We just need to direct people to those points so they can get be on the access. But the outer laying areas are the issue. So after talking with Anthony Clark, Mr. McAteer, and Mel Poole on yesterday, we came up with a plan. They're going to be able to install the fiber optic Wi-Fi in our schools. Today is the first day. North Marion is our test. So we're going to make sure we start at the north end, and then we're going to be starting to try to move based on need. But then there's also a plan for us to outfit some of our buses with some technology and send those buses into rural areas and try to get that internet access for these kids. So it's been a collaborative effort with the city, so I thank the city of Ocala. I thank Mr. McAteer, Sandra Wilson, our city manager, Jay Musler, and Mel Poole, and Anthony Clark and McAteer for working on this along with Dr. Mayor's team. So thank you. We're going to make it happen. It's not coming all at one time, but it's coming. So.
Well, and just another example of there's no obstacle that we can't overcome. So thank you for that, and we have a very healthy agenda, so I'll turn it back to you, Reverend Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, we're going to come with our new charter school application review.
Good morning, Pastor Chair, Madam Co-Chair, board members, Dr. Mayor, Ms. Green, Ms. Pertino. I'm here today to we're going to talk about the new charter school application that the district received. It's the Ina A. Colon Academy. You received the actual application itself back in February when they turned it in. The application is currently under review by district staff. And so right now, the applicant committee is here with us today to do a presentation on the academy, and then there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions to them at the end. And so up to this point, everything has been in order. They've turned it in on time, and they've been very helpful in everything that we've needed to do. So at this point, I want to introduce you to Dr. Christy No. She's the main contact with that. You should have a copy of the PowerPoint that they're going to present in your packet. Dr. No?
Good morning. Good morning, Dr. Mayor, Madam Chair, members of the Marion County School Board. We appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning to present this charter application to you. Again, my name is Christy Noe, and I'm with Collaborative Educational Network, and we've been working with the members of the governing board on INA A: Academy. First off, I want to introduce quickly the members of our team. With us this morning, we have Mr. Ken Colin, president of On Top of the World Communities, and also trustee of the Colin Family Charitable Trust Foundation. We have Rebecca Rogers, executive director of the Colin Charitable. Can you hear me? Colin Family Charitable Trust Foundation. From my team, we have Dr. Kim Cavanaugh from Collaborative Educational Network. Members of the board, we have Robert Colin, president of the INA A: Academy Board, Kay Fleischaker, Dr. Harvey Taub, Janet Benke. We also have G. Boudier, counsel for On Top of the World Communities, and counsel for the Colin Family Charitable Trust. We have Keith Spence with School Financial Services, Melissa Gross Arnold with the Arnold Law Firm. And with that, I want to turn it over to Mr. Ken Colin.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Noe. Good morning. As she said, my name is Kenneth Colin, and I want to thank Superintendent Dr. Heidi Mayer, the school board, and the district staff for hosting this interview today. Our team is excited about this opportunity, this educational opportunity for Marion County students and families. So let me answer the question of why. My parents, Sidney and Ina Colin, wanted their legacy to be that their estate be used for charitable purposes. My parents valued goodness, particularly as it relates to their neighbors and the community as a whole. My father's guiding star was that he always believed keenly that service and human values are greater than mere development work. Through our work, we affect the lives of people, and we affect their lives for good. During my mother's life, the Colin Family Charitable Trust was established with the intent of identifying educational initiatives that result in societal benefit for the community. Being a former educator herself, my mother believed in educating passionate learners capable of making the best decisions for themselves and for the society in which they live. The Trust focuses on initiatives that are inclusive and inspire others to be kinder and more respectful towards each other. My father passed in 2009. My mother passed in 2019. With my parents passing, it became my responsibility to direct and select those charitable initiatives that would reflect my parents' values. I strive to honor them in their legacy and their deeply held value of affecting the lives of people for good. A solid public education is a clear reflection of my family's values. To that end, we are establishing the INA A: Academy. We have a volunteer board that has strong community ties. Allow me to introduce them. Robert Colin, President, Dr. Javi Taub, Vice President, Kay Fleischaker, Secretary Treasurer, Dr. Mary Lasada, member. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us today. She's Medical Director at Hospice, and Janet Benke, also member. The primary role of the board will be to govern the Academy in a manner that establishes the school to achieve its mission and vision set forth the philosophies that value and guide school operations. So, do we have a slide here of the one more? Thank you. The campus will be located adjacent to Colessa Township, a master plan community encompassing more than 1,500 acres, located between Southwest 80th Avenue, Southwest 60th Avenue, and Southwest 38. I call your attention to the slide on the screen. On the left-hand side, you see the entirety of Kalesa, the 1,500 acres dedicated to family housing, and the employment center makes up the balance of just shy of 1,900 acres in total. On the right-hand side is an outtake from the screen. This is on the south end of the employment center. It's a set-aside of 60 acres. We have identified for you the location of the Ina A. Colon Academy. I must stress that this is conceptual, that vertical view, that plan view of the building really has no bearing to what it will actually look like. But the site is pretty well defined. We've made allowance for a future high school, should that become necessary. And on the north end of the site is the Florida Aquatic Swimming Training Center, which is well on its way and designed to do a major event and training center. Excuse me. So Kalesa will offer a mix of housing products appealing to a diverse range of demographics, including 1- and 2-story single-family detached homes and multifamily attached townhomes. Kalesa project student demand projection is found in your attachment T to this charter application. Based on these credible projections, the Academy will reserve 50% of the seats in the school for families living in Kalesa, with other seats being filled by student lottery. However, our student population will be reflective of the general population in Marion County. The need for well-designed, affordable housing remains very high in Marion County, perhaps more now than ever before. We are experienced in this industry and can deliver on that demand. Initially, the majority of our Ina A. Colon Academy students will come from outside of Kalesa. Allow me now to introduce Robert Colon, the Ina A. Colon Academy Board President, to share the vision and mission of the Academy. Robert?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
can,
I
Robert.
hear you fine.
Oh, great.
Yep.
Thank
How
you.
about the board?
Well, thank you, Ken. Thank you, members of the school board. Thank you, Superintendent, Mayor, and staff. I'd like to say first that I was very, very close to Sydney and Ina Colon, and from as far back as I can remember, they were a part of my life, and I love them immensely. Being a part of the founding of this school really allows me to cherish and honor their lives in a way that will continue to provide a positive impact to our community. Our vision for the Ina A. Colon Academy is to educate the hearts and minds of students and families in an environment where everyone belongs and everyone works together and thrives. Mrs. Colon, my Aunt Ina, was a devoted wife, loving mother, grandmother, and an amazing aunt. And she was also an educator, as Ken said. It is fitting that we honor her iron spirit by naming the K-8 charter school the Ina A. Colon Academy. The path to realizing that vision is in our mission, to cultivate passionate learners in an inclusive school community in which individuality and diversity are valued and students develop understanding and empathy for others through collaboration and active learning. In keeping with our vision and mission, our school's motto is sharp minds and kind hearts. We want our scholars to become people who learn well and live graciously. Our staff and scholars will strive to reflect this motto daily. And now let me introduce Dr. Christy Noe as she explains the educational program of the school.
Thank you, Robert. Good morning again. So I want to talk a little bit about what makes Ina A. Colon Academy special. When we wrote and submitted this charter application months ago, we had a vision of creating a school where the whole child is supported by the educational program and teachers, staff, and parents, and they all understand the value of emotions, building the skills of emotional intelligence, and creating and maintaining a positive school climate. At the core of our program is the whole child, but it's also the whole teacher, the whole administrator, whole parent, and the whole community. Then on Friday, March 13th, 2020, our entire world changed. Overnight, 2.8 million students and families lives were changed forever. COVID-19 and virtual learning became a reality for us all. School as we know it has changed right now. It's uncertain how long things will remain this way. Kids are experiencing all kinds of feelings during this time, and parents are faced with learning how to teach their kids and juggle their own jobs at home. The stress of having to remain at home for extended periods of time has developed a heightened sense of awareness about mental health and wellness for everyone. However, in the midst of all of this, we see stories about teachers driving their cars in a parade through neighborhoods and waving at students and families because they miss their students. I want to go back to our vision for a minute, just what Mr. Colin said, to educate the hearts and minds of students and families in an environment where everyone belongs, works together, and thrives. Our comprehensive approach to social-emotional learning is based on selected components of the Valor Compass program implemented in Flagship Academy and the Valor Voyager Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. We describe this in detail in our charter application, but these are highly successful charter schools that promote a model of balanced education where students are taught and encouraged to find their true north, balance their sharp minds and big hearts, and draw on their noble purpose as they take aligned actions in the world. Just stay there, Rebecca. Could you go back to the other slide? Sorry. The slide with the wheel, one back, Rebecca, the social emotional learning. And so this is kind of one of the core pieces, and I think you might have seen this slide before. This isn't a new concept. However, recently it's gotten a lot of attention, and it's actually been around for about 2 decades. There's been research that shows there's increased academic outcomes, improved behavior, increased ability to manage stress, better attitudes about themselves. It can also help reduce poverty and improve economic mobility. I think we've really started to learn in these times right now that emotions matter. Emotions matter for attention, memory, and learning. Positive emotions like joy and curiosity harness attention and promote greater engagement. Emotions like anxiety and fear, especially when prolonged, disrupt concentration and interfere with thinking. The current model for SEL has been to have lessons taught by a teacher. I know that in Marion County, currently you guys are using Sanford Harmony. We described that in our application, and we also had looked at caring school community. Our approach is intended to be aligned with the whole child. Also, our approach sort of addressing the whole community, the whole culture of the school, and wanting to embed SEL in everything that we do. And looking at this wheel as a visual representation, the way SEL enhances the student's capacity to integrate skills, attitudes, and behaviors to deal effectively and ethically with daily tasks and challenges. These competencies can be taught in many different ways and settings, as you'll see by this wheel: homes, communities, classrooms, and schools. 2 weeks ago, I was supposed to be in Chicago at the CASEL National Collaborating States Initiative meeting. Our focus was going to be on how to prepare teachers to deliver SEL and ensure that teachers have the competencies themselves to do so effectively. Well, with all of this going on, that didn't happen. However, the good news is that CASEL has developed a program that they're delivering to all teachers for free called CASEL Cares. Topics include things like building resilience to support ourselves, others, and our students. These have been extremely well attended and has brought SEL and competencies to both teachers and students, and now our community. Next slide. All right, moving from SEL, part of the whole culture, whole community, whole child is project-based learning. And so thinking about the integrated approach, project-based learning to us is about not the kinds of projects that a lot of people think about. Sometimes parents think, oh, your science fair project. We call those kind of like the things that you throw away. What we're talking about here is this starts in kindergarten, and it's based on standards. There are rubrics. It's meaningful, authentic learning. And so oftentimes it's driven by student questions, student voice, student choice. Oftentimes there's an essential question that drives it. For example, I was in a school where a second grade class had, there were a lot of injuries on a playground. And so the second graders were trying to figure out why this was happening. And it led them to interview the school nurse and then draw, a diagram as to what those injuries were. And I mean, there's lots of things that integrate lots of different standards and subject matter areas. And then from there, they actually brought in somebody from the Parks Department and involved the community to talk about how could they make playgrounds safer. Next slide. So PBL is kind of a different approach, and it takes sort of a different kind of space. In order to encourage collaboration, the classrooms have to be designed as sort of a flexible space. The building itself has to be designed to allow for active learning and to create a sense of community within the school and different grades. The teachers will share common planning space and have time allocated for collaborative planning during the day, and will have weekly coaching sessions with their project-based learning coach. A big part of PBL is having community partners, and we're excited to work with different partners throughout the county to incorporate them into our school. Going back to our mission, to cultivate passionate learners in an inclusive school community in which individuality and diversity are valued and students develop understanding and empathy for others through collaboration and active learning. When I looked up the definition of empathy, the simple version was the ability to understand and share the feelings of another, or the ability to relate to another person's pain or one who has experienced pain themselves. Somehow I can't but think that those 2.8 million students whose lives have changed have some empathy now. That being said, opportunities exist. Through this anxious-ridden time, new opportunities still surface. It starts with recognizing that we're all on the same team. We have an opportunity to work more closely with families and amplify their voice in how we move forward. Engaging with families with empathy and grace, working together to support our students. Opportunities exist to cultivate the authentic social and emotional learning competencies that are an artifact of this pandemic. Opportunities exist to continue to find new ways of teaching and learning because necessity is indeed the mother of invention. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kavanaugh to go through the curriculum piece.
Thank you, Christy. I think Christy just did an excellent job of describing what the school is going to look like and feel like to the students and staff and parents that are a part of it and to the community that comes to visit it. We also want to talk a little bit today about the what that we're going to be doing. She was talking about the how. We're going to be talking a little bit about the what. As Christy stated, project-based learning begins in kindergarten, but it's not at the expense of high-quality direct instruction in foundational skills like reading, writing, and mathematics. We all know that systematic development of foundational skills is critical for student success, particularly in the early years. Fortunately, having PBL as an integral part of the educational program doesn't mean that we'll be sacrificing core academic skills in those lower grades. Instead, as she noted, all projects, all PBL activities are grounded, will be grounded in the Florida standards and in research-based, proven effective instructional strategies. We'll be opening in August of 2022. Based on the current rollout schedule, the 22-23 school year will be the first year that Florida's new best standards for English, language arts, and math will be fully implemented, the benchmarks for excellent student thinking. As a result, publishers are going to be updating their Florida materials to align with those new standards. The Florida Department of Education will be rolling out training programs and information on those new standards. Because of that, final decisions about the actual instructional materials that we'll be using will be made closer to the time that the school is opened and once a principal is hired. That said, as we are looking at the specific materials that will be used, we're going to be looking first at their alignment with the new standards. Second is their ability to fit within a PBL environment. Part of that includes how flexible they are, how well they would apply in multidisciplinary projects, because so much of project-based learning has students involved in activities that focus not on one subject, but you might have math standards, science standards, and language arts standards all being addressed in a single project. We also will be looking very closely at the extent to which any new instructional materials include easily accessible accommodations, strategies, and learning supports for struggling or unique learners, because that's a critical part of the mission of the school. At this time, we have, as you'll see in the application, we have looked at things like core knowledge language arts, which the district is using, and it does do an excellent job of systematic direct instruction for children at a younger age, and something like Eureka Math or Envision Math, which are aligned at this time with our current standards, but are very amenable to project-based learning as well. The other reason that we're going to be waiting until the principal is hired is because we know that the type of principal we're looking for will be someone with an extensive background as an educational leader. And as such, they'll be coming to the job with their own experiences and opinions and understanding of the materials and the programs that have been truly effective with their staffs in the past. Next screen. As Christy was describing, PBL, it is part of the educational program, but one of the reasons we really like PBL is the fact that it is effective for all kinds of learners. It works for students who struggle with English language learners, or students who have language challenges, developmental language challenges, because so much of the work is done in peer groups. There's teacher-guided activities, peer group activities. You're listening to oral communication from your peers. You are communicating orally with your peers, and your students are getting a lot more practice in oral language skills in a PBL environment than they often do in a more traditional classroom. PBL is effective for gifted students to the same extent as it is with students who are more academically challenged because of the flexibility. In any given project, there's opportunities for reinforcement of basic skills as well as for extension for gifted students who need to do more higher level, or who would benefit from higher level challenges. SEL, the other primary piece of the educational program, also provides a supportive foundation for all students, and as Christy described, provides extensive support for their academic learning as well as their educational experience itself, the behavioral pieces that make up the school day. So that is the SEL curriculum will be as standards-based and research-based as the academic curriculum. And then again, as she reiterated, the whole child approach supports physical health and wellness, which is critical for all students to be able to access their educational program. So we believe that those aspects of the instruction itself will help our students become more successful. Now, from a framework approach, looking at what we're going to be doing to make sure that our program is effective, we start with a multi-tiered system of supports that will be in place in the school at the start of the school year. That school-based approach will include, at the highest level, a leadership team that will be responsible for monitoring and analyzing and making decisions about the curriculum and instruction and teacher development for the school as a whole, for grade levels, or even classroom clusters. The second component to that is the student-specific problem-solving teams will be made up specifically of individuals who work with a given student with challenges and professionals who have expertise in the areas of difficulty. And both of those levels of team, both the MTSS leadership team and the student-specific problem-solving teams, will engage in regularly scheduled reviews to ensure that our core instruction is effective, that our supplemental programs to help groups of students who may be struggling a little bit, that those are effective. If they're not effective, they'll identify the source of the problem. Oftentimes, it's that teachers may not be sufficiently prepared or have all the resources that they need to implement what they've been asked to do. So the job of the school is to ensure that that doesn't happen. A large piece of the success of this school is professional development. All of the things that we're asking the teachers and the staff to do, the SEL, the PBL, the high quality standards-based instruction on a brand new set of standards with brand new instructional materials, all of those things are large asks for our staff, and we understand that. So the strong, ongoing professional development in those foundational areas is a key component of what the school will offer to its staff. We believe that teachers who feel prepared to do their very challenging job are happy teachers, they're successful teachers, and they're teachers who are the most likely to want to stay with their school and continue to help it grow. Okay. Now, Chris is going to talk a little bit about how we're going to ensure these things happen.
Thank you. So one of the most important things is having a board who is committed and understands what their role is. And as you could tell from the very beginning when we introduced the board members, we've got a pretty diverse board who has a vast background of skills. They're local board members. They're part of the community. They're invested. They want to see the long-term success of this school. And so I think that, that's really critical to making sure that, they're going to be here for the long haul, as well as the support of the foundation. And I think that Mr. Colin has been a part of this community for a long time, and again, wants to have something that is going to make an impact and support Marion County as they continue to grow. I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to turn it over to Keith Spence to talk about the financial piece.
Thank you, Dr. Noe. The months leading up to February 20th, before the application was turned in, a budget was well vetted and researched out with the board and the consultants. Obviously, without bringing any more attention to the situation, we've all known that there has been some changes in our economic outlook coming up. Every budget, there's no perfect budget. Every budget is subject to change and subject to adjustments. There's not a roadmap that you can hand somebody 6 months out, a year out, that take your school to success. But there is some qualities and some things you can do that maintain that. Colon Academy has some advantages, I feel, to help navigate these economic times. One is time itself. There's 27 months before the school opens. There's time to make decisions, time to think about decisions, time to evaluate decisions. There's time for things to normalize a little bit. Colon Academy has also surrounded itself with some qualified folks to lead it through this. The board itself comes with a depth and a range of experiences and resources that can come play into this. On top of that, we have the consultants that have worked with schools before. They know how the startup works. They can navigate these waters. We have attorneys on board that are familiar with the charter law. We have accountants that are knowledgeable with charter school law, charter school accounting, can help move through this. And last, we also have the Colon Family Charitable Trust, who has already demonstrated their resources, their commitment to this project, which will obviously be such a big part of bringing this thing together. With any group like this, I think the 6 months or 7 months leading into the application process has proven this. This group is open, transparent. They communicate. This is going to be important when budget numbers turn into actual numbers and have to make it to the paper. This effective plan, I believe, is already in place. It just will continue on. Like I said, the lot of questions, I'm sure, will be answered. But the one advantage we have on our side is time for things to normalize, and time for things to at least become more of a reality, so that they can be put into numbers. With that is there again. That is our roadmap to success financially. Not as easy as it normally would be with a charter school, but obviously with this team, I feel like it's accomplishable. Thank you.
And with that concludes our presentation. I think now we'll open it up for questions, Mr. Ayers. Is that?
Yes, Dr. Noe, thank you for you and your team. At this time, we'll open it up for the board members and Dr. Mayor to ask any questions.
First of all, I want to say thank you. This is an excellent prepared application, and I know that everything that Ken Colon does is very well thought out and very well planned. So thank you for bringing this outstanding application to us. I think your academy will fit a niche in our community. I'm excited to give you my support of this and to wish you a tremendous amount of success. You have an outstanding board of directors that are committed to this community and have been and have proven their commitment to this community over and over. So I say thank you and good luck. I look so forward to the opportunities. I'm looking at your startup budget. Everything seems to be in place for you to be successful. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCall. Any other comments? Yes, ma'am, Ms. Stacy.
I've worked in education here since I was 36 years old. That was 30 years ago. And Ms. Binky, we all were in our younger days starting together right here in the school system. And I so remember how you served the board, so wonderful in those days. And I'm so glad to see that you're moving on with a project like this. That's probably the best thing that's happened to Marion County. It excites me so much, I'm almost in tears for the children that you will be that you will be serving. This is probably going to be the school that's on the map in the nation. I look forward to watching you roll it out. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ms. Stacy.
Thank you.
Ms. Key, Ms. Laura?
Yeah,
Thank you, Ms. Stacy.
I am very impressed with your application process, your transparency, your communication, and it's just very exciting, and I am also so looking forward to great things happening in Marion County and that part of town also. We know that there's a lot of growth, and I foresee you having excellent success. So best wishes and good luck. Thank you. You have my full support.
To echo everyone else, thank you for a very well thought out and comprehensive proposal. I have no doubts that the backing is there and the spirit is there and the professionalism is there for this to be successful. I do have one question. I was just wondering on the physical education side, will your students be able to access the pool for PE?
I think we're planning on that.
It's something
Yes,
I've always
that's
thought
a great
about.
program.
Yes, considering
I think they're
Florida's
gonna have
surrounded by
they'll
water.
have- Yeah, maybe they'll have staff meetings in this shallow end.
And then my only other comment is that you may have already developed this, but it's certainly timely. It's on our agenda today to have an emergency manual.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Seriously, best of luck to all of you. Thank you.
As well, I echo the sentiments of my colleagues. Thank you guys for the excellent presentation and proposal. And we know that you're going to fit a niche that's out there that's going to get to some kids and some families that really need that type of support. So thank you guys, and we wish you well in what you're going to be doing. So, Dr. Mayor.
Hi, this was a well done proposal, and I thank you for that. I thank you for meeting with me to talk it through, and just very impressed with the details of it. I do have 3 questions. On page 3 and 4, where you talk about the ESE population, you mentioned that it'll be about 13%, but in your revenue estimate worksheet, which is attachment W, you estimate 16%, well, 15.8%. So that's about a 3% difference. What is the plan to make up for that budget discrepancy if it does come through that way between the 13 and the 16?
First of all, Keith, you can jump in here as well. One of the things that I think what happened there was, I believe the larger percentage is reflective of the district as a whole. Mm-hmm. And so when we write the application, we tend to look at, we know that as a charter school, we won't have a pre-K ESE program. So that would understanding that, our goal is to be reflective of the district as a whole. That's a group of kids that we would not have. There's also a very small group within the district of students who need very intensive, separate setting kinds of support, so we wouldn't have those. So that's why in the application itself, somehow we didn't align those 2 numbers. But that's part of when the reality hits part, once students are actually enrolled and we have real kids, not just projected kids, that's when some of those budget adjustments will start occurring. So Keith, do you want to?
Yes, Kim, I'll need to drill down a little bit deeper, but just a quick glance on page 264 of the budget, our notes do give 13 for and 6%. The ESE at 13 and the gifted at 6. From
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you speak more loudly into the phone, please?
Yes. Is that better?
Just proceed. We'll see what we can do here.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I was just noting that on page 264 of the budget, that it does reflect 13% and 6% respectively. I'll have to do some drill down to see exactly where the 16% and the other numbers don't align. But the budget is driven around 13% ESE and 6% gifted.
Just like us, right? You project and then you have to adjust. So we get it. We get it. Awesome. In your original application, you had mentioned that you would participate in FRS, the Florida Retirement System. Has that changed at all? Do you still plan to?
Actually,
Go ahead.
I don't think that we said that we were going to participate in FRS.
No, ma'am? Okay. And then my final question, can you explain the relationship between the Colon Family Charitable Trust and the Academy? Do you have any overlap of membership, and how will that be addressed?
So you mean the staff who?
Right. So
basically, right. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So do any members of the Academy Board serve on any capacity on the trust? And will they independently operate?
Yes.
This is Reggie Boudier. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm with Stearns Weaver Miller, and I represent the trust. And so the simple answer is no, that the board members that are on the Academy Board do not intersect at all with the with the trust. And the only intersection that we have is Rebecca Rogers, who's the executive director for the trust, serves as a resource only to the board as a gift to the Ina Colon Academy as part of a resource, but she doesn't have any authority or power.
Thank you. That concludes my questions. And again, thank you for your the proposal. Well done, and to go that in depth with our pre-K ESC, that touched my heart. So I appreciate that very much, and we look forward to working with you as you develop this concept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board? Heather? All right, just so that we go over and touch the next steps are, this was the presentation by the board, by the applicant to the board. The next steps is on April 14th on the consent agenda. We're scheduling a public hearing for the April 28th board meeting. So at the April 28th board meeting, there will be a public hearing on the application and the board vote to approve or deny. And so those are the next steps for that. So does the board have any questions for me?
Thank you.
Nope.
Is there any public comment behind any of this? I guess.
We have no public comment. All right. Thank you, Ina Colon Academy, for your presentation. I will be in touch, Dr. Noe, and I apologize in advance. And then we'll be in touch. So if we could ask you all to, at this time, to log off and hang up as we have our next presentation that needs to log in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you all.
everyone. Bye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Mr. Ayers. We're going to move to our next agenda item, annual review of alternative learning sites via Zoom. Mr. David Ellers.
Good morning, Chairman Cummings,
Good morning,
Vice
Mr.
Chair
Ellers.
Thrower, Mrs. King, Mrs. McCall, Dr. Mayer, Mrs. Green, and Mrs. Prestipino.
Mr. Ellers, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if each of you could speak clearly and loudly into your phones, that will help us with audio on this end. Thank you.
Will do. Good morning, everyone. Is that better?
A little bit.
Still muffled.
A smidgen.
Today we're here to give our annual update on our 3 alternative programs. They are Silver River, Mentoring and Instruction, serving regular education students in grades 7 through 12. New Leaf Center, serving all exceptional education students in grades 2 through 6. And Pace Center for Girls, an all-girls school serving students in grades 6 through 12. Kevin, is the PowerPoint ready?
Whoever is sharing the PowerPoint from your end, they can go ahead and share.
I will do that. Okay. Our first presenter is going to be Mr. Alan Need, the principal at CERMI. Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
I can't.
Can you hear?
Very good. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning.
Mr. Need, can you speak a little bit
Yes, sir.
louder or directly into the microphone?
Yes, sir. Is that better?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you.
Is that better, folks?
Yes,
very
thank you.
good. Yes, sir. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning, considering the circumstances that we're up against right now. But we're happy to present our annual update to you folks, despite the times that we're in. So our mission statement, which I know we're familiar with, is to promote the increase of lifelong learners by providing a positive educational environment that empowers the at-risk youth of Marion County to be responsible and productive citizens while being supported by a community at large that recognizes and accepts their potential. Our current student enrollment to date is listed there, and I won't trespass on anyone's time by reading through the grade level numbers. You can see those there. We are heavy in middle school this year, as has been a recent trend, but that is our current demographic breakdown. Our personnel information is also listed here. We have a total of 6 various administrative positions, 13 instructional, 10 non-instructional. Our current teachers who hold professional certifications at 2, temporary 1, classes with teachers teaching in-field also currently at 1, and out-of-field at 2. Our facilities data as well, you can see there. Permanent buildings, our singular campus here, portables, number of classrooms, 8, total number of offices, 7. We do not use any district-owned buildings, and we own our facilities here. And we have no additional plans for new buildings. Our program is built on a resiliency choice theory that has always been the foundation of trying to change young men and women's behavior so that they can successfully return and mainstream back to their base public school. We implement a system called SMART, which it's an acronym. You can see the qualifiers there. Primarily and first and foremost, as always, especially in this climate, safety and supervision of all our students is paramount. Positivity and an attitude overhaul for many of our children is really the ticket to them being successful back at their base school. So we stress that heavily. Appropriateness is a very general term, but it covers behavior, academic effort, and a myriad of other factors, obviously, that relate to both our setting and them returning to public school. Respect, obviously, also a large component of any child's success in an educational environment, dealing with authority figures who they may already feel as, a challenging engagement with those folks. So we're coaching and teaching respect daily, and our students are task-oriented, whatever the task may be, whether it's a behavior intervention, an academic intervention, etc. Sight sound supervision is paramount for us also. We have methods in place where no student throughout the day is ever outside of the sight or sound of our staff member or members. And our school-wide behavior modification system is, again, as I stated, based on the resiliency theory and choice theory for our children to hopefully realize through our coaching and mentorship that they can self-correct their own behavior. Our behavior and support slides here continued. We do implement a PBIS system that is multi-tiered to include not only a token economy, but weekly positive referrals that take a full scope over our 7th through 12th grade population. We do have the very fortunate situation to have a full-time mental health counselor on our campus Monday through Friday with Ocala Consulting and Prevention. They see students daily for substance abuse and anger management and truly any other family-based issue that child or family may be encountering outside of school or in school. We have for a long time now been involved with multiple wraparound services, work hand in glove with the Children's Home Society, T-BOSS, BAYS, the centers. JPOs are on our campus daily and in communication with myself and our administrative team. We do an abstinence program annually, work with the health department very closely, and the other vendors there, as you can see. New for next year, we are rolling out a trauma-informed care whole school model. And it's been a pet project of mine since November, and we are really excited to roll this out for next year. It's in draft stages right now, but we're finalizing a lot of the intricacies and pieces that we look forward to bringing to our children and families starting next August. Currently, we are putting a few of our staff members on the administrative side through Florida State University's Trauma One certification program, which is a fantastic resource-vetted higher education certificate program that really delves into the annals of the benefits of trauma-informed care in our schools, especially with our population. Our goals have remained consistent as we all battle with school-wide attendance being a challenge. Our goal is to consistently hit that 90% mark of student attendance. We also annually strive to, when our children come to us, they are usually very unit and credit deficient, and our goal for them when they leave us is to mitigate that deficiency both in 7th and 8th middle school and 9th through 12th, maybe even more prudently to remove any credit deficiencies, unit deficiencies. We'd like to get that number to 95% as it's stated there. Our return to base recommended percentages, we would love obviously to always hit that 90% number and have a 0% recidivism number for our recommended to return students. And that is our hallmark. We are striving for that each and every year, each and every semester as we release in December and again in May. And another consistent challenge for us is improve our hiring process and retention of highly qualified instructional personnel. As always, to put the best staff members on our team to be out in front of our kids every day. COVID-19 distance learning. This has been a really great opportunity to see how our staff, in conjunction with great support from our folks at the district who have worked with us remarkably well over the last 3 to 4 weeks planning for this. And we're in the throes of it right now, obviously, as is everyone else. We've had the fortunate flexibility to offer a virtual CERMI program to our students that do have internet access. Those classes are standard aligned for the 7th through 12th grade curriculum. with access to a actual teacher of record system via multiple electronic communication methods. Our teachers are doing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday scheduled Zoom conferences, an hour each day, and that's just the benchmark schedule. They are available for additional sessions whenever the students need them, fitting into their daily schedule, obviously. We obviously have a huge portion of our student body who does not have internet-based services at home due to various reasons. So we complemented our virtual services by hand creating a paper-based curriculum, again, for all 7th through 12th grade levels that are standard aligned, matching precisely with the district curriculum maps and pacing guides, as well as what our regular teachers were conducting as their instructional model for the school year. And we actually broke those up for three-week chunks, modules, if you will, for the fourth 9 weeks. So our program is well equipped to weather the distance learning effort if it extends beyond the May 1st closure. For those students, we dropped the work off starting on March 30th, and our staff that is not the instructional staff, so basically our paras and our behavior techs, they're making daily calls to each family, whether they're leaving voicemails every day or not, exploring all the emergency contacts to reach out to our kids and families and make sure that they're having success with that work. And if they need any additional help, we're pointing them towards our folks on Zoom, but also via our in-staff folks that are here on campus every day, which is an administrator, myself, or my AP. And obviously we know that those families who don't have internet, most typically still do have a smartphone, and thanks to Zoom's mobile features, they can still reach out to us via that. Our distance learning continued. We're logging, obviously, all those parent, student, family contacts, not only through our teachers working remotely on the virtual model, but also with our behavior staff and paras who are calling students and families daily. As I mentioned, we have an on-campus administrator Monday through Friday, and our IPC is here every day, 8 to 4, for any calls that should come in. And surprisingly, we have received a number of calls, so we're facilitating those. Thanks to the wonderful folks at Interfaith, and specifically Ms. McCall's inclusion of us in that effort, we've been able to twice deliver a substantial number of bagged food and non-perishable items to our families, as well as include them in the 211 food notification for site services for our kids, which was remarkably wonderful that our kiddos, although they have breached the code of conduct and been removed from the public school setting temporarily, are still obviously participating in that effort. Our Ocala Consulting and Prevention counselor, Ms. Gary, who is here, as I said, Monday through Friday, she is also utilizing teleconferencing and digital services to still meet with her caseload, which is hugely valuable, especially for our students who are obviously in great need of those services during this tough time. We're working with psych services and social work services, Mr. Eller's office, very closely with our NBT collaborations. And again, I can't overstate how supportive the folks of the district have been as we've rolled out this very unique model for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Need. School board, I don't know if you wanted to ask questions individually or wait until the end.
I don't have any questions.
I'm good.
We don't have any questions.
Okay. Our next presenter is going to be Ms. Katie Vernon, the principal of New Leaf Center.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. So, much like Thermi, our mission is very similar. We're trying to promote and increase lifelong learners by providing a positive educational environment that empowers the at-risk youth of Marion County. We want them to be responsible and productive citizens, and we want them to be supported by our community and to be recognized for their potential. This is a breakdown of our current population. We're sitting at 169 right now. The only thing that I will elaborate on here is that in grades 2 through 6, we do have both general education and ESE students. So I will just give you a breakdown of the ESE. And second grade, we have no ESE students. Third grade, 12 of those 18 are ESE. In fourth grade, 6 of those 13 are ESE. In fifth grade, 7 of those 17 are ESE. And in sixth grade, 14 of those 41 are ESE. This is a breakdown of our personnel data. We have 4 administrative units this year, 16 teaching units, and 17 paraprofessionals. We do have a paraprofessional in every classroom. We have 2 non-instructs, 6 bus drivers. We have 5 teachers with professional certifications this year, 4 teachers with temporary cert. 8 of our teachers are certified in ESE. 5 of our teachers are teaching in field, meaning they're duly certified in their subject area and ESE. 10 of our teachers are out of field, and 10 of our paraprofessionals are highly qualified. So we have a pretty big support system at New Leaf. Our behavioral support, I guess, would probably be most important. And so we do have a behavior modification program that is infused throughout our day. Everyone utilizes the same program on campus. We all speak the same language, so our kids understand the expectation is similar everywhere that they go. There's points and letters. If you visit us, you have seen there in every classroom. They're visual for our students to see. That data is collected in 5-minute increments. That's our behavior data. That is how we determine whether a student is eligible to return to base or not. It's also how we're able to identify triggers. I'm getting a lot of feedback in the back. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not.
Yeah, we can hear you. You're now.
I just keep going, Katie.
Okay. We also have wraparound services here. We are working with the CAT team, the centers, the APO as part of Florida. We have cards coming out for our students with autism. Our social skills is embedded in our modification program, and we're also using zones of regulation as our curriculum. We have a paraprofessional in each classroom, like I mentioned before, and a full-time behavior specialist on our campus. We also have a full-time mental health counselor. We also utilize OCP. Kevin is here every day, Monday through Friday, from open to close. We have an SRO on campus as well. He's been with us since the day we started, so he's been able to build a really good relationship with our students and families. And we're also bringing in community mentors. School-wide support, we do utilize sight sound supervision as well. Our students are not allowed to go anywhere without a staff member, so you would never see a student going to the bathroom, for instance, without a staff member. We don't allow any contraband on campus, so we supply every school supply a student could need. No book bags, purses, cell phones, personal items. None of that is allowed for the safety of everyone on campus. We are offering field trip incentives just like we always have. We're focusing on behavior and attendance, and our students do earn Leaf Loot, which is our school money that they are able to use to shop in our school store. Our goals are much the same. Every year I come to you and I share with you that as a school, we're really looking more for learning gains, not necessarily proficiency. I also share with you every year that on average, our secondary students are coming to us with a 3rd grade reading level. So that's where the focus on gains really comes into play there. So our goal again this year is to increase student independent reading levels by a minimum of 1 grade level. And then we're also looking for learning gains in the areas of math and reading as evidenced by state and district assessment. And we did that last year for the very first time. So we earn a school improvement rating, which most of you know, instead of a school grade. And last year, New Leaf Center was able to earn a maintaining rating. So for the 18-19 school year, we were maintaining. It's a big deal because it is the first time that an alternative school in Marion County, going back all the way to 2009, which is as far back as I can find data, has been able to obtain that score. So we're very, very proud of our students and our staff. It's something that we have been striving for since we opened a few years ago. just to put things into perspective, the way in which we earn those learning gains, it's determined for students who are with us for either Survey 2 or Survey 3, and they use FSA math and reading scores and math EOC
I don't think
scores.
we need to read all of this.
I did want to mention that we attribute those things to the relationship building that we are able to do with our students. Just getting them to work is a big deal. Many of our students just don't perform in a traditional setting. So once they trust our teachers and they know that they're safe here, the performance happens and we're able to see some pretty spectacular gains. And as I've also shared with you in the years prior, we only work on a center model with small groups. And so that's allowing for some true differentiation for our students who are struggling learners. Our COVID-19 distance learning delivery. So we surveyed all of our parents and found that most of them did not have access to much technology. So we decided that we would go and develop paper-based modules for our students. We delivered those to our students as well via the bus. And that parents at bus stops went door to door, left them on front steps. We did 2 trips so far, and we were delivering 3 weeks at a time, just like Jeremy was. So to get the first 3 weeks, it took 2 trips, and about 20 of those we were unsuccessful with, so they ended up being mailed. So we've really done our best to make sure every student has these paper-based packets in their hands, and we have made contact with all of our students who have answered. We've been calling every day to ensure that not only do they have them, but that they are being successful with completing the work. So we have our teachers conducting daily phone calls home. Many are Skyping or FaceTiming. It seems to be the most successful for us. Before teachers went on the hybrid model, you would see teachers holding phones and kids on the other line doing their work while the teacher sat in the classroom. So it was pretty cool to see that they were still engaged, but at home working hard. Teachers are utilizing the district ESC distance learning logs, and we are working with the ESC department to ensure that those are being completed correctly, and also supported by district personnel in the ESC department to reach out to those families who we have not been successful with yet. So daily phone calls are happening, and now ESC is going to follow up as well and try to get in touch with them. Our behavior specialists also created a packet for social skills materials for each of our students to try to support their social emotional needs while at home. This is a struggle for a lot of them, and we're doing our best to support that. They're sad and they're angry and they're scared, and so just trying to reach out and just support them, and those relationships, like I said, are just really beneficial for them at this time. Even I'm getting phone calls from our bigger kids. I'm worried. Am I going to graduate? I worked so hard. It's so important to me. So just a lot of reassurance is happening. Ocala our consulting and prevention, our therapist, he is also still meeting with our students as well. All of our therapy is done individually, and so that's continuing. He's calling and speaking to them either via Zoom or the telephone and supporting them through this difficult time. And the food services, we are also still, just like Jeremy, we are busing food from Interfaith to all of our families who are in need.
And our last presenter is Ms. Julie Williams, the Director of PACE, Ocala.
Now.
Good morning, and thank you to all the members of the school board and Superintendent Meyer.
Hello.
I am presenting on behalf of...
Hang on, Ms. Williams, hang on just a moment.
We had a question for New Leaf. We had some questions for New Leaf.
And she might have said it, I don't know, because I can't hear. But on slide 20, what does it mean that via bus, second bullet?
So instead of expecting our parents to come to our school and pick up the packets outside of the door, we took our buses with our paras out on their traditional routes, and we went to every single house and we dropped the packet off to them.
They did their route.
The
So
delivering
what she
time.
said is they took the school bus and delivered to each of the homes
Okay, thank you.
To do their regular route.
Thank
Sounds
you.
like it.
their route.
And I get what it was kind of hard to hear. The pitch of her voice is kind of difficult. It kind of muffles it, but I can hear her.
I do have a question too.
We have another question.
Hi, Ms. Vernon. Congratulations
Hi.
congratulations on maintaining and with
Thank
a really
you.
tough population. And with that in mind, with the reading difficulties that your kids have coming in, how exactly are you addressing those needs? And do you feel like you have the support that you need to continue moving forward?
Well, in elementary, we're addressing needs through a 45-minute intervention in the morning. We're using Saxon, small group, obviously. So every morning, we're devoting 45 minutes to those students. And then during the school day, we're only teaching in centers. So small groups, either a teacher or a para, sitting with each group of students to really help facilitate their learning. With our bigger students, it's the same thing. We are center-based model there as well. There is a para in every classroom there as well. It just allows for true differentiation, and it makes sure that we're able to gauge engagement. So our big kids like to sleep. That's the go-to. So when you're sitting in a small group and there's 5 of you at a round table, it's much harder to sleep. It's much harder to not be engaged. It's also safer in that small group to participate, and we try to, put like ability kids together. So it's not embarrassing if you don't know the word and you're in 10th grade. And like I said before, it's relationships. So if they know that we love them and they know that we support them and we know that we want the best for them, and every day we come with that same attitude, eventually they start to get it and trust, and they start to engage and really start to perform.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions for Ms. Vernon? Okay. I will go ahead and introduce Ms. Williams again. She's the director of PACE Ocala.
Good morning again. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I appreciate being able to present on behalf of Carol Savage, our Executive Director. Thank you for your time. Our mission statement is PACE provides girls and young women an opportunity for a better future through education, counseling, training, and advocacy. We believe in a holistic, treat the whole girl and her environment to obtain that success. We currently have a student enrollment of 57, and similar to Survey, we have a high ratio of middle schoolers at this time. Our personnel data, we have 4 administrative positions, 6 instructional positions. 2 of those are ESE certified, 3 of those are certified, the others are temporarily certified. We are renting currently in the Madison Commons building downtown. We do not use any of the district buildings at this time. So our strategic goals, PACE-wide for all the centers throughout Florida and the other states that we're moving into, is to strengthen our core, delivering program models that positively transform how girls develop socially, emotionally, and academically. We need to serve more girls. We believe that changing the life trajectory of more girls by increasing the number of girls served in our programs. Influence systems and policies. So position PACE as a leader in shaping the systems that affect girls' life outcomes while enhancing organization-wide public sector resources at the local, state, and federal levels. We are on a White House Council for gender-responsive programming at the national level. Growing capabilities and capacity is our last goal. So we enhance the internal processes, systems, infrastructure, and private sector resources needed to strengthen the core to serve more girls and influence systems and policies. We are constantly evaluating and changing the services that we offer, and we have done independent research to back that up through, through different sources. We have also have a new service, our PACE Reach services, are a fairly new component to PACE Marion and other of the centers throughout the state. We currently, for Marion, provide 2 licensed therapists at 2 school sites. Currently, one is at Liberty Middle School and one is at Westport High School. These therapists are funded by the Department of Juvenile Justice to assist with mental health services in a preventative capacity, so that's at no cost to the school system or the school board at this time. We are hoping to expand those services in the upcoming year. We currently have 48 Marion County students enrolled to receive services from their REACH therapist at those 2 schools. So that's been a very valuable service. We've got a really wonderful response from the schools to have therapists at the site to perhaps prevent any further need for intensive services or placement in another school. PACE is a social services therapeutic program. We offer academic services to girls grades 6 to 12. We do intensive progress monitoring. We are competency-based, so we meet girls where they're at, and we work with them to achieve the success that they need to become current in their academics and social services goals. We do utilize Plato for both, it says on this slide, credit retrieval and original credit, but we only use it for credit retrieval at this time. Given the current circumstances, we have developed a distance learning plan. So prior to spring break, we were being very proactive. We surveyed all of our families on what type of technology they had or access to, what's the ideal way to remain in communication. And during the spring break week, we actually provided to all girls via mail academic assignments in paper form to cover the next 2 weeks while we were assembling virtual packages to help serve them. We continue to provide paperwork or paper assignments for girls without computer or internet access. We do that via mail with return materials, self-addressed stamped envelopes, those types of things, so that they can complete their work and return it to us. We work with each family on a case-by-case basis to determine if they need a loaner equipment, such as a laptop or a tablet, that type of thing. And if they have the internet services that are required for that, we will go ahead and, on a case-by-case basis, loan out to those families that are in need. Virtual classrooms started the week of March 23rd. They continue to operate through several platforms, including Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom, Khan Academy, and others. A variety of platforms is designed to meet the students' needs based on their specific learning styles and capacity. So one student may perform well on Khan Academy, but not in Microsoft Teams. So we do try to utilize the best fit. And Microsoft Teams also allows for virtual classrooms, as well as the capacity to have, Zoom platforms as well. We do daily check-ins with the girls' teachers, as well as their counselors. The counselors are utilizing software that's HIPAA compliant, and also phone systems, if that's the only means that they have to communicate with them, and the teachers as well. We do have a requirement for every staff member to make contact with the girl at least once a week, so that ensures that the girls are having a touch point at least daily.
And that is the end of PACE's presentation. Do you have any questions for Mrs. Williams?
I have questions.
Yes, we do.
If we look at slide 28, could you explain what, I see REACH, and it's, there's no explanation on what REACH is. And then it says that, so would you explain that? And then where there's therapists at Liberty Middle and Westport, why were those schools chosen?
We had reached out to the school counseling district or school counseling program, and they identified that the highest need at that point was at Liberty Middle School and Westport High School. There is additional needs at other schools, but since this is just the start of the program, those are the two schools that were identified highest need and where to start. And what the REACH service is it's a comprehensive, they're licensed therapists who have a office or a space at the school specifically, and they meet with students that are referred by the school themselves, you know, administer therapy services. Usually it's on a weekly basis.
Dr. Mayer, I can interject as well. One of the main reasons Liberty and Westport were selected as a feeder pattern, obviously Westport is a very large school with very high needs, but Liberty also was one of our students with very high incidence of Baker Acts out of the school location, our highest school in the district. And
Mr. Ehlers, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you speak closer to your microphone? We're just having some audio issues
I'll get a
hearing
little
you.
closer.
Thank you.
Basically, our two schools were identified by need. Liberty Middle School had our highest number of Baker Acts out of the school site. That was one of the major reasons we targeted Liberty in that feeder pattern.
You want to move here? Because I can hear fine.
I can't.
I think maybe it's the way it's coming in behind her. So.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You want to move here because I can hear just fine.
No, it's because I have a hard time hearing.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
It won't matter because I can't hear the answers.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any comment from the board? Thank you guys for your presentation.
Those of you who just finished with Mr. Ehlers' presentation, you can leave the meeting and hang up your phones. Thank you.
I'm gonna take a 5-minute break. Everybody. Okay. We're gonna recess for about 5 minutes, guys.
That's just weird, too. People.
All right, guys, we're back on for out of our recess, so we're going to follow the agenda and go to Ms. Alice Posada for our audit presentation.
Good morning, Reverend Chair, board members.
Good morning.
Superintendent, Mayor, Attorney Green, and Nicole. Was expecting to see Ms. Martinez. Today, Purvis Gray & Company are going to be presenting our audit report for the 2018-19 fiscal year. They perform our audit every 2 years, and then on the third year, the Auditor General from the state of Florida comes in and does our audit. They do a financial audit, which encompasses all of our federal programs that are required by law to be performed every year. Mark White is the managing partner, and Matt Ganu is the audit manager in charge of our audit. And if you two would speak clearly, I'll let you take it over, Mark.
Thank you, Alice. Good morning. Can y'all hear us very well?
Very
Yes.
good. Very well.
Very well.
Y'all got the best phones yet.
Okay, very good, very good. Mr. Chair, board members, superintendent, and all in attendance, good morning. We appreciate the opportunity to be in front of you here today to essentially conclude the annual audit process by reviewing our auditor's reports with you, the governing board, and going over the contents of those items. We will be glad to take any comments or questions as we go or at the end, however you would prefer to do it. Again, I'm Mark White. With me is Matt Gano and also Allison Stone, one of your other audit managers, was unable to be with us today. Briefly, the Florida statutes require that all local governments, including school boards, undergo a financial audit, and I always like to start with that item because the word audit itself is somewhat of an imprecise term, and I think it's important to understand the scope of what we do because there's many different types of audits. And essentially, the scope and purpose of a financial audit is for an independent CPA firm such as ourselves to come in and perform auditing procedures to issue an opinion that your financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles and that they're free from material misstatement. So that is what the statute charges us to do. The document that is produced as a result of the audit, we call it the CAFR, C-A-F-R, Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. I see Ms. Posada holding it up right now. And that document includes all of your financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2019. The rules of the Auditor General interprets the statute, so our audit is performed in accordance with their rules, and that CAFR document will meet all of your external financial reporting requirements. So it satisfies the statute, it satisfies the Auditor General. You also have secondary bond market disclosures with the regional repositories for investors that may be holding school board bonds. This document is filed there because they want to see the financial results and operations of the school board. Ms. Posada mentioned the federal and state grants. We also perform, as a part of this audit, what's referred to as a single audit, where we look at internal control and compliance over your federal grants. And lastly, the school board voluntarily participates in the GFOA, that's the Government Finance Officers Association, the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. The statutes that I mentioned that require the audit, they require that the audit meet the minimum GAAP. GAAP, when I say GAAP, I mean generally accepted accounting principles. The minimum GAAP requirements. If you want to be in the GFOA Certificate of Excellence program, you have to, at a minimum, do GAAP, and then there are additional financial statements, schedules, there's statistical data that's included in the CAFR, which essentially is the highest form of financial reporting that there is in the country. And the district has received the GFOA Certificate of Excellence Award for many, many years, and we work closely with your staff to make that happen. So I've told you about what it is and why we do it and that sort of thing. The primary report that we issue is the report on the financial statements, and it tells you that it's your management's responsibility to prepare the financial statements in conformity with GAAP and free from material misstatement, and that it's us, the auditor's responsibility to express the opinion. We have issued what's referred to as an unmodified opinion, which says that we do believe that the financial statements are fairly presented in accordance with GAAP. So that is the highest form of assurance you get from independent CPAs, and that is the primary report. We also look at internal control and compliance over financial reporting, not to issue an opinion on them, but to support the opinion on the financial statements. There's a report on that. We're pleased to indicate that our audit indicated no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses in your internal controls or compliance with laws and regulations over financial reporting. That's also the state of Florida is concerned about how local governments invest their surplus funds. There's a Florida statute 218.415 that outlines what you must do if you want to go beyond certain safe harbor investments, which the school board does. They have asked the independent auditors to issue an attestation report on your compliance with that statute. So that is also contained in the CAFR document, our independent auditor's attestation on your compliance with the investment policies of the state of Florida. And of course, your policies mirror the statute. That's where they were taken from, and we found you to be in compliance with that as well. And then lastly, there's a report on your internal controls and compliance with on the single audit for the federal grants. And again, we're pleased to indicate that there's no audit findings in that area. So really, I think it was a good year for the district. The audit went well, and I think that pretty much completes the prepared remarks that I had. Be glad to take any comments or questions from you.
Any questions, guys?
No, just thank you.
Thank you.
We like to hear good news, so especially at times like this. So thank you.
Absolutely. And if there are no comments or questions, I would like to just close by acknowledging your staff. Of course, we get out to all of the various departments as a part of what we do, but of course we work the closest with Teresa Ellis's group, which includes Alice Posada and Christine Corrigan and many other people in that group. And we want y'all to know that we get great cooperation from your staff all the way through the organization.
Thank you.
Any public comment?
You can hang up now, they said.
Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Emergency manual update, Ms. Barbara Dobbins.
Y'all ready?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
All right. Good morning, Reverend Chair, Madam Vice Chair, board members, Superintendent Mayor, Attorney Gibbs, and Mrs. Prestipino. For precautionary reasons, I emailed you the emergency manual for you to peruse instead of giving you a paper copy. Today, my goal is to highlight the changes to that manual, to talk about timelines and the status of some projects.
Keeping in mind that this manual is always a fluid document, personnel is going to change, phone numbers are going to change, but the core of it, where our shelters are, the number of capacities and things like that, those are the core things that remain in the manual. Some of the big highlights last year are our facilities. Under Robert Knight, did an intensive walkthrough with our schools and the department, the Division of Emergency Management, and they looked at capacities of our school. So some of the changes you're gonna see in the manual are tweaks to the number of evacuees that each school can house. And then you're gonna see a very proud one is, as you know, Westport High School is already a special needs shelter, but in working with the animal control and emergency management, moving forward in this season, hurricane season, and any emergency that comes up after that, we are able now to have Westport High School a pet shelter for the special needs evacuees that are sheltered there. So it's not a pet shelter to the whole community, but it is for those evacuees. And they had found that a lot of people would not come in to our special needs because their pets were either at Lake Weir or at Vanguard. The other thing is that you're going to see right now, tentatively, Liberty Middle School is still a general population shelter, keeping in mind that once we have that generator in place and everything hooked up and ready to go, and I'll talk about the timeline of those things later, that will turn into a general population and a special needs shelter. The other change is not necessarily to the manual, it's to our portal. A lot of the communication I had with administrators was sometimes it's hard to find where this manual resides in our own SharePoint portal. So in working with that, once we get it approved and up to date and everything's in place, it's going to reside in our portal on the main page, so it's easy for any person who is sheltering responsibilities to find. So I'm looking forward to that change as well. Your timeline is on May 12th. There will be a public hearing for the manual, and hopefully that will result in board approval. Moving in to trainings in May for any and all people assigned to a shelter to have full in-depth training in the month of May. Also, as you know, hurricane season begins June 1st, so by having it May 12th, it allows it to be as up-to-date as possible. But remember, it is a fluid document, always has been, and will continue to update personnel and things such as that. The other thing is just keeping in mind that this manual is more than hurricanes. It's for any sheltering need we might have, such as fires. We've had to open in the past Fort McCoy for sheltering for forest fires and so forth. Projects. Like I mentioned before, we'll open Liberty once we have that generator in place. Where are we with that generator? The generator has been ordered. It's been ordered for a while. The design was done. It was ordered. They will have the pad in which it sits completed in May. So at that point, all we are waiting on is for the delivery of that generator to finish that project. We do not know how COVID-19 will may or may not hinder the delivery of that generator, but we will be ready to receive it and hook it up as quickly as possible so we can house those special needs evacuees. The Westport High School contract for the current generator that does, the big generator that works there, is still in the works as it moves through contract language and those things. We also needed to have 3 tie-downs. So we have 3 portable generators that the Sheriff's Office brings into, one to Forest High School, one to Madison, and one to Saddlewood. And we needed to have the ability to secure those on a concrete pad with a hook. Forest High School is complete. Madison and Saddlewood will be complete before hurricane season gets here.
Mr. Leppert said next week.
Wonderful. Yeah, amazing.
I forwarded you that email yesterday.
Thank you, ma'am. And then lastly, we have two big grants. In working with the Florida Division of Emergency Management, there are two grants, one for just over $15,000 and one for just over $2.7 million. You're going to see those grants coming to you on the April 28th board meeting for approval. Keeping in mind that there's going to have to be a lot of communication and a lot of strategic planning to ensure that our district doesn't lose money because it's a cost reimbursement grant. So we're going to have $2.8 million available to us to be reimbursed, but we have to be well thought out, well strategic in how we chunk those projects to make sure we're getting our full reimbursement. With those grants.
Robbins, may I ask a question on that?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you going to do that? Are you putting a committee together? What is the new committee that Kelly will chair? Or is that going to be a part of really looking at all of that to be sure that we're doing that correctly?
I will seek Mrs. King's direction on that committee. It is something we can do with that committee. Key people in that are, of course, going to be our facilities, Mr. Leppert, Teresa Boston-Ellis, and whomever else is designated, to ensure we can chunk those projects. So in other words, when you read that contract that's coming to you, you're going to see a certain amount of dollars allocated to retrofit Westport High School. The next step of that is to make sure that we get our quotes and everything in place to see what is that retrofit going to cost us. And then is that going to cost us more than what's reimbursable? And that's a discussion we're going to have and a decision's going to have to be made. Let's say it's going to cost us $500 more. Do you want to spend $500 more? That's not going to be reimbursed. So a lot of conversation in that. So I'll look to Ms. King on that committee for that guidance.
I mean, it's so important that it's done right, because if you miss one component, then you don't get the funding. So whatever we need to do to put that accountability completely in place, we need to do. So I defer maybe that be part of it, is that committee really be a major focus on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's fine.
Absolutely, no problem. And first, one thing I'd like to say is getting it board approved doesn't lock us into have to spending any funds. We can leave the money on the table if we don't feel comfortable. And I know the current situation with COVID-19 adds a little bit of concern to it all. So absolutely, we'll work it through that committee.
I think there's timelines that you have to follow for that
Yes, there
cost
is. There's
reimbursement. So, I mean, it's not just, okay, we spent this, here you go. There's so much
And
more
that's where
to it.
Renee St. John's is very important in that process as well.
Thanks, Kelly.
Do we need to put her on that committee then? Does she need to be?
The committee's already been approved by the board, so I think that's set, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't have people come into
I think she
meetings and
could
so
be
forth.
like a resource.
Okay, that's what we'll do.
Yes. And other than those two grants, that's where we are with emergency management. We do have a tentative work session on April 23rd to address any questions. Of course, I'll leave it, not that I will leave it, but it's your decision whether we need that work session. Again, here's the manual. You have it. It's a fluid document. There's no major changes other than the ones I've noted. And again, coming as a public hearing and hopefully board approval on May 12th.
I have one more question. The trainings, are they an annual training that everybody that shelters will have to take part in? I think it's a great way, just a reminder, so that if you set that annual training every single May, every principal, every administrator that's in charge of a shelter must attend that.
Yes, every shelter employee, everyone assigned to a shelter will have the in-depth, the whole manual training.
Every year.
We can do that
Not
every
just
year.
the shelter managers, it's
Right.
everybody.
Well, I think it's crucial that annually that be done. I know when I was at the hospital, we had trainings every single year just to remind everybody.
Right.
So I think it needs to be an annual training.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Just, thank you, and are you the point of contact now for the emergency manual?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, all right, and The second thing is that whatever it takes to stay on track, just keep us informed. I mean, we don't want to be a barrier to any of this sailing through.
Absolutely. Thank you. Anyone else?
And we can see right now, and we saw last year how important this manual stays updated and current because of what we're going through now and all those different things. And we're about to approach hurricane season again, so thank you for
You're very welcome.
putting it together. Thank you, Ms. King, for working on that
Thank you.
committee as
Is this
well.
online? Like,
So the board-approved one in September is online, but this one is not because it's still draft. This is draft.
but it's always online.
It is always online or, it's on our portal.
Not the confidential one, but the.
Correct, correct. The public that doesn't have confidential phone numbers.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Any public comment, other comments? Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ms. Dobbins. Dr. Grantham, District Staffing Plan 204.
Good morning, everyone. Today was intended to be day 2 of 4 for the district staffing plan, but Teresa and I have been speaking with COVID and what we don't know our funding sources. We think it's way premature to have conversation about what we're going to do for something that's September or October. So Reverend Cummings, if you will, we will come to you 3 more times, but we just don't think it's appropriate this time. We're talking about things we don't know. And our concerns are our employees right this second, not what's going on in September. So statute says we have to have it approved by the board in September. I think it's September 8th, Teresa thought. We still have plenty of time before that, and I would imagine they're going to push that back a little bit. But we just didn't want to talk about, just didn't think it was appropriate right now.
Board members?
No, I'm fine, and I was reading our lobbyist memo this morning, so I get it.
We just keep hearing different messages from different folks, and we need the money in the bank before we start spending the money. And
We know that budget's going to be affected because of this. We know that. And we have to be very smart on how we deal with it, so.
Reverend Cummings, if you will help me, I think we're on the work session again and the work session again. Can we push those dates back a little bit, certainly till after May?
Push them back at least a month.
Okay.
That should give us a little bit of time.
And then maybe we can have a normal way of work again and start knowing what kind of money we have. Is that okay? Okay.
That'll work. You guys in okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Grantham. Mr. Knight, proposed new cafeteria at Osceola Middle School.
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the board, Dr. Mayor, Mrs. Green, and Ms. Prestipino. This morning, I'm going to give you a brief synopsis as to the progress on the Osceola Middle School construction documents. I'm going to flip through each of the sheets pretty quickly, so obviously if you do have a question, feel free to stop me. This is, I think it's about 13 slides, but I'll probably only talk about 4 of them. So the big picture is that the statutes require that boards approve Phase 3, which in other words are construction drawings, before engaging in a major project, or have its reviewing agency do so. For the school board, the reviewing agency is our own building code compliance office, but we still, when we do additions, major renovations, come to the board, A, so you all can see the progress, and B, in case there's any questions before we get completely done design. So this presentation is not going to be the entire set of documents. It's going to be a few of the highlights, more of the dog pony show type of stuff, and we'll go from there. So there are a number of folks involved in the project team, the architect, civil engineer, and mechanical, electrical engineer, structural engineer, food service folks, and then the construction manager, and then our own folks, our design coordinator and construction coordinator, primarily the 2 people in my office working with me. So as far as where this site is going, I'll show you the existing site. You can see up there that north is at the top of the page. You have the main building 1 at Osceola, the courtyard, then the media center and building 2 classrooms. And then south of that, or to the bottom of that, would be building 3. And then 8th Street Elementary is further down on that same slide. We looked at about 5 different sites. There was only one that really made sense that did not pose major issues with loading food and traffic and student participation in lunch, And if we go to that slide, you can see it'll be constructed between buildings 2 and 3. It's about the only green space left in the site without displacing something else at the school. So we will go now to the very next slide, and this is a colorized version of the floor plan. Floor plan consists of just under 14,000 square feet. What you see in color, the yellow represents outdoor spaces. There is a partially covered outdoor dining to the left of that building. To the right of that building is the loading area and docks. And then we have a stairway because the elevation changed at the school on the top of that building. The light green is where the students would be dining, the dark green where the teachers would be dining. The orange are public restrooms, primarily for those using the dining facility, and then that kind of maroonish color, there are 3 of them, are storage areas, one for custodial, one for chairs, and then the other for the general custodial space at the school. The blue areas, that kind of a turquoise blue between the pink and the green, is the serving lines. There are 4 of them, plus a salad bar, which is commonplace in our middle schools. The large pink area is the kitchen itself, and where they're receiving the food, where they're storing it, cooking it, and then getting it ready to go into the serving line. And then finally, those blue boxes to the bottom right are mechanical, electrical, plumbing rooms that service the building. If we go past the floor plan, this is what the elevation might look like on the very next slide. And it is a daytime picture. It's, I don't know if we can get it up on the screen, but
Goes really well with the historic buildings. That's nice.
yeah, we, Osceola Middle School Building 1 is on the historical register. Buildings 2 and 3 are not, but obviously that whole campus is brick. So we basically mimicked what Building 1 looked like, just in a smaller scale. It will have a pitched roof as far as the covered walk. What's not shown there is the existing concrete walk, but it would have been very difficult to see the elevation of it. And very similar in Osceola Middle's Building 1, the windows, and you could see where there is a grade drop off. So the covered walk, the covered dining area would be out on one plateau, and then the ramp coming from Building 3 and 8th Street going north on the campus would be coming downhill. And so our handicap access would be to the south of where that building looks like. And if you go to the very next slide, there is what the interior would most likely look at. Wouldn't necessarily be this blue, but Osceola Middle's, one of their school colors is blue, so we utilize that. And presenting this interior space, I think it'll be light and airy, especially since we're not covering every bit of the front. We want as much daylight as we can in there. The very center where the dining is would be raised, number 1 for acoustics, and also number 2 because of, to allow that daytime lighting in there. And so the students would be coming in 2 main doors, get their food in, and there would be a big central dining area, and then they would go out into the courtyard or patio from there. The rest of this presentation is really very much nut and bolt or technical. There is a mechanical plan. It's very laborious to go through. There are about 12 sheets in the mechanical set. The engineers are not here, but they always get excited about the nut and bolts. And the very next sheet is the electrical lighting plan. Point of all this is that we have a full set of the construction plans in our office for review if any of you would like to come by, take a look sometime. It's about 113 pages long, which is why you're not seeing the entire set of plans here. And rest assured that our code review process will handle all the legalities as far as official code reviews, safety, and what have you. And again, this is more or less to show you not only where we're at, but what some snapshots of what we think it'll look like when it's all completed. So the quick summary is that the construction documents have been issued. We're undergoing our final code reviews now, trying to finish by tomorrow. And the construction documents are available in our office. There'll be a board item that doesn't have any attachments to it, asking the board to officially bless the Phase 3 construction documents, and we usually use that for auditors. So if they ask, does your board understand what's being built? Yes, we actually had a presentation on it. The next steps involve the pricing work, which will engage now that we have Phase 3 construction drawings, and eventually, of course, we'll come back to the board in due time with pricing once we get the pricing in, vet it, and make it a formal board request item. We don't have an official schedule yet, but it's going to take about 10 months to construct, start to finish, And so right now, we are allowing about 60 days for the pricing phase and to agendize, and so that 10-month timeframe would start from there. So about 12 months from now is when we think we would finish. That would incorporate the pricing phase and then the 10-month construction phase. And obviously, if we finish sooner, we'll open it up even sooner. It'll be a little bit tight to work with, but we've worked on many, many tight sites. About every site we have is tight. And currently, we are making provisions to move the clinic portable, which is there, out to somewhere else on the campus to make room for this. And then down the road, there's actually something in the 5-year plan to replace the clinic with a brick and mortar building as part of some other event.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I went to Osceola as a middle school, and I remember, and I'm not sure if it still have the same layout. The buses used to come between there, didn't they?
They come now between the track and the backside of the gymnasium building.
Okay.
And then they continue straight out. That was one of the reasons why we couldn't do it on that side, because with the canopies and things, we would have boxed in the buses and we wouldn't have been able to get food delivery to the back without going right through where the kids stood.
That's what was throwing me, because I knew the buses used to come down to make that hard right. It was a hard right angle. And so if they move to the other side, that makes sense.
They've been there for quite a while.
Oh, okay. Y'all know how old I am.
That little roadway you're talking about, Reverend Cummings, that goes to the right or to the east to, I think it's Tuscaloosa Avenue.
Yeah.
There'll be a wider pedestrian walk for the students, and we're going to grass part of that, number one, for effect, but number two, to help with any stormwater drainage. I actually went out there in a heavy rain and mapped out where the water was going, and I went when leaves had already fallen, so it was easy to follow the track, because the civil engineer had gone out several times and was having a little trouble guessing as to where it went. So I have about a dozen pictures of, well, I didn't take pictures of myself soaking wet, but I did follow it. And so it's going to be part grass, part sidewalk, because the 8th graders still come and go off of that drop-off along that roadside.
And so this will finally get Osceola their own cafeteria. 8th Street will still have their own cafeteria.
Yes, this will be, I believe, the first time ever that Osceola Middle students will be eating in their own cafeteria. It's been shared since 8th Street since Osceola was built.
Correct.
1927, I think, is when it opened.
Correct.
And so the two schools will each have their own dining facility now.
Oh, that's good. We have a lot of staff over there.
Yeah.
So where's staff going to be parking?
Well, right now, we're going to lose a few parking spots at the very east of it. Eventually, if the board sells this property and others, we hope to retain the parking lot south of here, because about 50% of it are folks that work in the Finance and Technology and Employment Center, and the rest of it are mostly Osceola staff. And so that entire parking lot will be open to Osceola. Like I said, about 5 years out, we have in the 5-year plan to build a clinic and an art and music suite, because there's a very old wooden building there that both schools share. We're hoping to make it one school's and build something else for the middle school, and that will get rid of a bunch of portables that'll free up parking on the 8th Street campus. So there's a master plan there, just not quite down the road, so.
That's good to see. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we are too. So that completes my presentation. Like I said, it's done just to, A, show you where we're at, and B, give you a snapshot as to what the contractor's perspective will be when they go to price things. And like I said, the actual drawings are available in our office if you care to come by and take a look at some point.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. Any other comments from the board?
Exciting.
Yes.
Yes, very much so. It's not often that you get to see the behind this, and a lot of it's sitting down and sketching and meetings and hours, and our file is just full electronically of all the meetings we've had, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. We're winding down design and getting ready to ramp up the pricing and construction mode, so.
I especially love the architectural design of the interior, incorporating the Palladian windows and just blending it with the older building, with the style. It's really pretty.
It's very nice.
Yeah, I think it'll fit good, and if you didn't know it was a new building, just first glance would tell you that it was probably all built same time. That's what we attempt to do in capturing the facade, is we didn't want anything that looked too foreign or too modern, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other comments? Public comments?
Did it go under the historical community guidelines? Did you have to do it along with the historical group downtown, the board?
It does influence it, yes. There's not a particular size or scale that we necessarily had to follow, but yeah, I mean, putting a big glass pyramid in there would obviously look out of place,
I know
number one, and
that historical group down there, they.
yes,
They
like the
approve
Louvre.
everything.
That's exactly what I was thinking of with the Louvre, so, yeah, so it'll fit into the neighborhood quite well, fit into the campus quite well, but as you enter, it'll certainly be modern and be the most modern kitchen and most modern serving line that we've got in the district.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Knight.
okay, thank you.
Ms. Lindsay Barber, African American History Community Advisory Team Committee.
I'm going to fill in for Ms. Barber today, and Ms. Lopez, if you'll come up to the podium, because we're going to tag team this. This is an update on where we are with the exemplary status and the timeline to form the committee and move forward with this exciting endeavor. So a little history. On March 5th, Dr. Coggins was with us during a work session and gave the overview and his timeline for us to reach exemplary status. And at that work session, he noted that the advisory committee was a key component. It was very necessary in this process. On March 6th, we sent out an email asking for board members to nominate community members. And the only nominations we received were from Ms. McCall. She nominated Colonel and Mrs. Raspberry. So we'll come back to that in a minute because we need your guidance on that. So to move forward with Dr. Coggins' timeline, we will have rulemaking on the 14th and then final public hearing on the 28th of April, both April. But that brings us to the point where we only have a nomination from one board member, just 2 people. So that delays the timeline, or how? Do you want to extend it?
I think we can nominate somebody and
There
get
was a
them.
message sent out right
I don't
after
remember
this
seeing it.
presentation, and I got right on, because I felt like that Frank and Naida Raspberry, she actually did something with the college when they were doing all of this, so she's very knowledgeable about it, and they agreed to serve as mine, but as soon as I got the email, I made the phone
Yeah,
call.
I don't remember getting that. I'm sure I did, but
I'm
I'm kind of like you. I think it maybe Heidi moved so fast that we kind of went whoosh.
It was an email, I mean, it was very,
Okay.
I just somehow.
So what is the deal? I sent it on the 6th, and I asked to reply to Ms. Barber by the March 27th with your nominations.
Okay. Can you give us till tomorrow to get those nominations to you? And I don't think it shouldn't affect the rulemaking. The other 4 board members, myself included, it wasn't intentional. We just got so much going on, so the rest of us will get those to Elena.
So this afternoon, I'll forward that again to y'all.
Okay.
And then we're still on timeline? Yes. Okay, perfect.
Okay, that works.
Okay, so that's under
And
consent.
you just want 2. You just want 2 from each board member.
Correct.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll be on.
That'll be on the March 14th.
On 14th, this Tuesday, and it's under consent, just approval to move forward, correct?
It's actually on there for public hearings, scheduling some public to move forward. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And I apologize.
You're good.
We just missed it, so we'll make sure it gets there.
All right.
Thank you
All right.
so much.
All right. Board concerns, Dr. Mayor, any board concerns?
No, thank you.
Ms. McCall,
no, have none.
Ms. Stacy? Ms. King?
I only have one item that's been brought up to my attention again, because I think there's misunderstanding or it needs clarification. There are, I think at the bus garage and maybe transportation or somewhere, employees still feel that they have to show up right now, including even if they may have some underlying health issues such as heart attacks or anything like that. Can we again get clarification for our community that if they have that at this point in time, they don't have to attend or not attend, but
And you are correct. And when we have, we're down to our meetings 3 times a week, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where Dr. Grantham leads those meetings. We meet at 9 o'clock with area directors and Mr. McAteer and Ms. Beck. Then right after that, we meet with all executive directors and directors, and that's a very clear message that folks do not have to come to work. And that message I know has been shared because we do have limited staff, and we understand that. And with the food service, even Ms. Boston Ellis has jumped in to help prepare meals because some food service staff aren't working. So that is a very clear message. We'll continue to share that, and thank you for allowing us to clarify it this morning.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I think they just want.
Absolutely.
I don't know what the reasoning is, and I know we have shared it, you have shared it, and so I was like, okay.
Thank
again,
you.
We'll do it, so thank you.
Perfect. And just communicate with your supervisor and all as well.
Yeah, thank you. They appreciate that, and I do too. And then also, I think maybe because we've had a lot of focus on a lot of different things, I do not want, I personally, again, on behalf of the board, would like to thank the transportation, our cafeteria, our custodians, because they right now truly are essential, and they are coming into our schools. And maybe we haven't personally thanked you or had that moment, but right now, I am personally, the board we're thanking you for going into our schools and cleaning and taking care of our children and providing the meals and the transportation for driving that bus around. It hasn't been easy, it's been difficult, and we are eternally grateful for each and every one of you. And that's what I have to say today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King. Ms. Thor?
Absolutely, all the way around. If you're not mentioned specifically as a group, please know that you're appreciated, as all unsung heroes are. And as we continue through this, there's going to be groups that kind of come into focus. In the beginning, we were getting lunches out, and there was a pretty narrow focus on transportation, and then, getting the teachers situated kind of took over, and who knows, what group is going to be showcased next. But absolutely, it is a total team effort, and I certainly extend my appreciation as well to everybody. And then this next question, it kind of amuses me because there's always kids that are going to try to find ways to capitalize on the system, so to speak. And there does seem to be a little misinformation regarding certain students' perceptions about passing this year. And so I think some clarification and guidance is needed. We certainly want to make sure that both parents and students are clear on what they need to do and what they need to do to pass for this year, which likely includes continuing to do some work and turning in assignments to the end of this school year. So I'd like some clarification on that as well, so when parents call me, I either know who to direct them to or know exactly what to say.
That's a hard one.
So,
Yes, they're all.
is it a specific grade? Would you like Ms. Beck or Mr. McAteer? What?
Yes, it's secondary.
Okay, perfect. All right, Mr. McAteer will follow up with you directly.
Okay.
And the different, like ACE has some different criteria for assignments, and I know that has been a special area of concern with how ACE itself is grading assignments and providing that guidance. So I'll have Mr. McAteer tap into you for the specifics.
Okay, because I think some students heard that we're not giving zeros, and therefore they were like, well, then why do I have to turn in any work? So it's interesting. But I will also say that I have not received any concerns from the elementary side regarding, workload for kids or anything like that. I'm recognizing the email that you sent asking for you to be informed if we did hear of something, and I have not.
Thank you. I've gotten quite a few calls. So our area directors had some, I call it tender conversations with our principals yesterday, and just reexamining the workload. And again, our teachers are working so hard to recreate the magic of the classroom in this virtual environment. And so we're just going back to look at how that's translating. So the aim is to keep students engaged and on task and target, but not to overwhelm. So we're taking a look at that. Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Thor. I too want to echo, thank you, Ms. King, for bringing that up, because I was going to say it. I intended last week when we were in the work session to thank our food service, our transportation department, because they haven't stopped working the whole time, and they've been out there making sure these kids are getting food and making sure that things are going forward. So I do want to thank them again, personally, again, and then on behalf of the board as well. You could have said you're just not going to come to work and you're going to stay home, and that you have that right. But because of your passion and love for these kids and what we're doing in this time, you're taking it upon yourself to come in and do what needs to be done. So I thank them, truly thank them for what they're doing. That is truly a testament to their service. And then I also want to thank our principals and our school staff, school-based staff. On last week, they were handing out, and early this week, they were handing out devices, and it was a challenge. Let me say that. There were some challenges. There were some serious challenges. I'm going to give you a for instance that actually happened last Friday. I called, got through delivering food, Beth, for Interfaith. I called Fort King Middle School, and I was just going to stop by and see how their devices were going. And at the time, I got the assistant principal, and he said, "I can't talk right now. We got an emergency going on here." I was right around the corner, so of course I went. And I get there, they tell me that they've had to call the police to come to the school because a parent is trying to give back a device that had been given to them, and the school could not take the device back because it had been in the possession of that family. And this father and you know, the principal was, he showed all kind of professionalism in trying to deal with this parent and trying to resolve the situation. And the parent, it was actually kind of frightening because the parent sat there in the car and we didn't know if he had a gun, we didn't know if he had a bomb. We had no SRO on campus. We had no SRO on campus. So we had to call, they had to call the police to come. And when the police did respond, we should not take that device back.
He can just leave it laid on the door and walk away if he wants to.
It was contaminated. It was contaminated. We didn't have a process to take it back.
But don't they have to return them at some point?
At some point, but we'll have a process in place then. But let me finish. So this parent sits there and with this kid in the car, and we don't know what's going to happen. The cops come. They try to reason with him. The principal is trying to reason with him, and he is just sitting there as passive resistance, just sitting there. We don't know what's going to happen. So finally, they issue a trespass warning. He still won't go. He just will not go. And they're putting on gloves and everything. They're getting ready to do something. From a law enforcement standpoint, when we put on gloves, it's on. It's on. So I said, guys, before you do, let me try and talk to him one more time. Let me try and talk to him. So the parent, I was able to talk to him, and he said he just did not want to pay the money, the $75. So you can waive it. We're not worried about it. I don't want this computer. I don't want it at my house. I don't know what was going on mentally or whatever. I said, sir, I'll take responsibility for the computer. I'll pay it. It's your computer. You don't ever have to bring it back, because it was getting ready to be bad. Our people are dealing with, and that was just one that I walked up on. Our people are dealing with those type of situations because we're in a different time. We're in a different space. That thing could have got really, really bad. People could have got hurt. That kid was subjected to sitting there in that car, seeing all this, seeing 3 policemen pull up, getting ready to snatch his father out of the car.
But it's sad that that $75 is that scary to that man, too. That he
Exactly. And so that's why, I said that to say this, we don't know what everybody is going through and how they're dealing with these situations at this time. Some people are coping. Some people have different coping mechanisms. It may cause some people to go to the edge or over the edge, but we have to be cognizant of that. So when I talked to Dr. Mayer earlier this week, and she was telling me about the workload that we've been sending out to these kids, we don't know what's going on in everybody's household, and we don't know what's going on in every parent's life and what they're doing. So I think the principals, I appreciate what they're doing and getting that instructions out, but we're in a different time. We're in a different time. We are definitely in a different
When
time.
you offered to pay the 75, did he just leave then?
He did leave, and he kept the computer. So Fort King, if there's a computer that you guys gonna miss when you come back, I owe you $75. So, but that's the mentality of people we're dealing with, and we don't know who they are. We don't know how it's gonna pop up. So that's why we have to kind of just be aware of what we're dealing with, and it was really tense. It was really tense. So, and I thank God that the officers did respond, but that just goes to show that, even in situations like that, we still needed SROs on our campus. Even though school's not in, we still needed SROs on our campus. And here, now we're getting ready to go to putting these, opening up the Wi-Fi at schools. We're going to need SROs on campus to monitor those parking lots. If kids are driving into those parking lots and picking up the Wi-Fi, we're going to need our SROs back on campus.
Are we still paying them, or are they working in the community, or what's the story?
We are still paying, but the majority of them have been pulled for community patrol.
And they patrol around the school parking lot?
They're patrolling out in the community.
Yeah,
I mean, so this is a conversation that we're going to have to have. We're going to have to have it, but I just want you guys to know that with us, with all of the changes and things that are going on, we got to have some real conversations. And we have to know that if you got, North Marion High School is going to be open today, later today, it may be open by now, where kids are going to be going there. And I think I kind of directed Mr. Poole that to turn on from like 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening. We got to have people that are going to be able to look at those situations. We don't want the whole campus opened up. We don't want our campuses wide open. And we got to do things. We got to educate different. We got to do something.
And Reverend Cummings, what I might suggest is that the hours, if the sheriff and OPD can do this, the hours that our schools are there, where there's that time frame where parents can come and pick up. I drive by Shady Hill every day, and there's a car line of parents coming to pick up the information that are out in boxes for their kids. I suggest that maybe the SROs be at the schools during those time frames when we know that parents are going to be on campus. And if we're paying the bill, I think that we have the authority to request that.
And that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
At least work
Well,
with
did
us.
the governor,
Very close by.
so tell me, did the governor pull them, or did emergency
No.
management pull them, or what happened?
Reverend Cummings and I have been having lots of conversations. You want to?
About how to address that issue.
We need to know,
with the
that's
sheriff.
crazy.
The governor didn't pull them, but it has been, because it's been emergency, I guess we're in an emergency climate.
Under an
They were
emergency
able to pull them. They were able to pull them, but
And
with,
some of them are on the buses that are delivering.
right, some are following buses and stuff like that.
They are being used, but after that incident at Fort King, we probably should request that at those hours, when packets are being handed out at schools, that
Right,
our
and
SROs are there.
and when those Wi-Fis are on, that we got to have somebody there. We just don't need anything negative that really happened in those situations, so, and you're right.
Had you not been there, that could have escalated
Yes, it
really,
was-
really bad.
It
It
was
was-
going into a crisis right then, and.
It was there.
Amazing that there was a pastor, close by, that was able to come and diffuse it, because it was so unexpected. The parent the day before was rational.
Yeah,
And
he got it the day
Yes.
before. He got it the day before. He had a
something, so he
great
was making
conversation.
arrangements and-
He was making arrangements, and then 24 hours later, he's,
There's a standoff.
Maybe he thought he had to pay the 75 if he didn't return it or anything.
Just an extraordinary.
it was just a unique,
Strange
Something happened to
response.
him on that day, and this was
Yeah.
one way.
Well, like you mentioned, so many people
They're just stressed.
Distressed. is a minor word, right? Right, we can't think of an adjective to describe it. And the calls that I'm getting from families about the elementary school workload, they're actually from grandparents. And we know that so many parents have sent their children to grandparents because the parents, well, from our lips to God's ears, are working, and so that's part of it as well. But like you said, we just don't know what's happening, and as we can help in situations like this, it's the least.
I got a call from a mom yesterday, and she was just crying and needing a Chromebook for her child, and she's telling me about her cell phone, and it's just. I called Dr. Grantham and I said, I need help. And so he goes, just have her call me, give her my cell phone number, have her call me and let me talk to her. He said, because if I have to, I'll take that Chromebook out there myself. I'll drive it out there. And, but her story was so bizarre. And
that's the thing. We this is a huge county, and we have 43,000 kids, and we never know what's going to happen, and I think we have to be willing to hear what's going on and be able to try to adapt if we can. We know we can't just open up everything and do it willy-nilly, as Miss Stacy would say, but we have to still, I remember what Chancellor Elevia said last week. He said, with compassion, grace, and urgency, and we still have to have that mindset going forward, even with the instruction that we're giving to these kids. So I thank God we have great people here that are working to make sure these kids get the education that they need to get. But we just got to be cognizant of what's out
I
there.
noticed something interesting. I noticed the attendance thing. That was interesting. 100% attendance and stuff. But these kids are calling. I guess they're calling in with.
They're doing so much outreach.
They're checking in with their parents and stuff. So I thought I've never seen 100% attendance like this since they're all at home. But at least they're checking in with somebody.
Right, and Ms. King, I think you put it really well the other day that yes, education needs to continue, but it's taking care of everyone's other needs that supersede at a certain level. You know, we all want our kids to continue to be engaged and be getting, something out of this. There's all kinds of embedded lessons when you think about it, that have nothing to do with straight up academics. So I thought that was really well put, and that's what we're seeing transpire. And, we, as you said, we never know what's going on behind other people's doors. I did get a call from a mom early on, and it was a food-related issue. She's got 3 kids on the autism spectrum, no car, out there in wherever, and hadn't been able to get to the spots. And I made a phone call, and within 10 minutes, it was Mr. Butler, I think, that ended up delivering the food that day.
She must have called us all, because I talked to Heidi about that one.
She emailed me.
She started working on it, so she must have just gotten in touch with everybody.
Yes, but it was just like that, and that's when you know that people's hearts really are in the best of places.
And then the other thing that I also kind of learned too while I was at Fort King that day is that parents that are helping their kids with the technology, some of our kids think they're on vacation. They do. Some kids are thinking they're on vacation, and they happen to say, I don't know how to get on this device, I can't get on this device, and they're
their mother's
they're working it. They're working it.
Exactly how to
They know exactly what, and it's a simple phone call to the school. I guarantee you, whoever answers the phone at the school, whether it be the principal, assistant principal, whoever's answering that phone is going to be able to walk you through, and they can tell you the last time that your kid was already signed on. So,
It would be a cute survey to know how many boys versus the girls have these issues. I think of my sons.
So
I need
parents,
help.
I'm so grateful that my kids are out of school.
so parents, don't fall for the okie doke.
I can see my baby.
That's what I'm going to say. Don't fall for it, because they've gotten used to being on vacation. Exactly. They've gotten used to it.
A lot more than you think they do.
Because I can see the little sisters, that's the baby of the family, helping all the older brothers do it when they already know how, but she's in there getting everybody squared away.
Every
single student
The little
knows
mother.
how to sign on to the portal because they have to do it
Yes.
in their classrooms.
Yes.
So that's
Yes,
not
so
an
they
excuse.
do know how to do it.
But their mothers don't know that's not an excuse.
Right. So parents don't accept that they don't know how to do it.
Can you just hear it?
Right. And then the other thing, yesterday, we were in meeting yesterday, discussing, the appointed superintendent, and we discussed about the town hall meeting for Friday, and the discussion came up about us not, losing candidates. So I'm gonna request a call for a special board meeting for Tuesday morning, school board meeting for Tuesday morning, and we can kind of move forward with this process, and not keep the candidates in limbo, not keep the community in limbo. We know that the town hall is going to be for tomorrow. I'm asking this in accordance to Florida Statutes 1001.372, and that we just go ahead and do it Tuesday morning.
I think that's a great idea. We don't leave anybody, including our community, in limbo. And I think all of us, after watching the forum Friday night, I think we'll be able to make a decision and not keep them in limbo. So I agree 100% with that.
Anything that shortens up the timeline is good.
So we have a consensus.
Making a decision.
Stacy, Ms. King? Okay. So we have to.
9 o'clock?
9
Be
o'clock?
Tuesday at 9 o'clock. We have to have 48 hours, 2 days' notice.
Tuesday, 9 o'clock?
9 o'clock. Attorney Green?
Chair Cummings, if you are doing that, you may want to seek consensus about putting also on that agenda the STEP CG LLC agreement, which is the Wi-Fi hotspot agreement. That is going to need board approval.
Yes.
We've been working on it.
And that's the one for what Anthony and the city of Ocala and all that we're working on right now. So can we go ahead and put that on the agenda as
Go
well?
ahead and add that. If you have to seek consensus to add that as well.
Have consensus? Okay. So,
All right.
all right. With that being said, we're going to recess to clear the room because we have attorney clients. Adjourn. I'm sorry, we're going to adjourn. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Thrower, seconded by Ms. King. All in favor? Meeting adjourned at 11:41.